Well, welcome back. We're here at the Future Trends Forum in Anaheim, California, live from the Educause 2016 conference. We're continuing our live coverage with a whole series of guests, and now we have actually two guests, so I am outnumbered. So be careful, Future Trends Forum, keep an eye out for me, just in case we're in trouble. We have Emory Craig, and we have Maya Georgieva,
Yes.
who is here representing the digital bodies collaborative
Consulting.
project consulting
Yeah.
consulting group. And if you don't know these people, shame on you, because among other things, we've had them as guests before on the
Yeah.
forum, and they are also right now in American higher education easily the most interesting and experienced people looking at the combination of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and higher education. So these are people that you definitely need to know about. And in order to help you know about them further right now, let me ask you, you did a pre-conference seminar yesterday, and you were just telling me a minute ago, Maya,
Yes.
that the questions are getting better.
Yes.
What was changing? What kind of questions were indicating that? Were people showing they had experience with using Oculus Rift or something else, or what?
Well, it's really interesting, actually. Let me start by just sharing a few additional facts. So we did the sort of a survey, and what we found out is that about 25% of what was the microcosm of our workshop,
Mhm.
but it was very, very diverse crowd. With people spanning from different roles, from instructional designers to CIOs. So from that crowd, 25% actually have something going on campus with VR. But it was sort of the question, the way we asked the question was something that is a little bit more than just experimentation. So it's not three people, in the back room trying it, but at least it's a session
25%.
within a course, or it's a session within some kind of context within the curriculum.
If you did this poll this time last year, what kind of percentage would you got?
For 15. So actually,
10%, 10 to 15.
So it's
yeah.
incrementally improving.
It's
Yeah.
probably doubling every year.
Doubling every year.
I would think, we're close to, not quite,
10%
we're
up,
close,
but
close
yeah.
to that. And so many people were talking about having a conversation
Yeah.
right now and saying they're thinking about doing projects.
Yeah, and what was really interesting is the second question we asked now. So how many of you are, so we know there is a segment of you that already have something going on. And it's not only in the garage, but how many of you have something that you're talking about and may start next year? And then the percentage went really high.
So next academic year or next
Yes.
calendar year?
Next calendar year, which is,
Oh.
we did ask like 6 to 8 months.
Well, it's coming up.
Yeah. We kind of wanted to do 6 to 8 months, and the percent went really substantially up. So combined, actually, that percent went up to 55%.
So you are right now at the cusp, and you're just seeing this, not the cusp, but this is rising and rising.
Yeah.
The plane
Yeah.
is done to take off roll. It's leaving the ground. So
You guys just flew here. I can tell.
wheels up, okay?
That's even better.
Wheels up.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a diverse crowd? I mean, do you have a sense of what types of institutions are really taking the lead on this?
Well, obviously, there are the institutions who have placed this already within the context of a virtual reality lab or some kind of other lab. So these institutions now are looking at it not only from the perspective of teaching, but possibly from the perspective of research. And these things combined these things can drive sort of drive support, drive funding, and I think that. We're seeing that at, what you consider like the large research university. At the same time, some really neat initiatives, projects, small, innovative, love them, are starting in small places.
Like what?
Where people are trying to put it in the art program. So, for example, the Cornish School of Design in Seattle, small art school, they did a project with the HoloLens, where kids design art and basically invited for their art exhibit. Everybody wore HoloLens, and so it was an empty room, and all of their art was digital.
But the art was there.
But the art was there.
But the art was there virtually as
Yes.
opposed to being physically there.
That's the holodeck.
That's like holodeck.
Because the holodeck is supposed to be blank.
Yeah, right.
Physically blank.
You're walking into the blank room, but the room is anything but empty.
But they're like student projects, like spinning around, like ballerinas, and visualizations,
And HoloLens is very good for that because it has that ability to have persistent objects. So once the object has been placed in a location, you can walk away from it, come back with a HoloLens. The object is still there.
how come HoloLens isn't getting more publicity? Is it because it's Microsoft and people are still scared and embarrassed by them, or
Expensive.
It's expensive.
how much does the gear cost these days?
$3,000. However, I think that from what I was in a kind of like a very lucky discussion in a what was a corporate setting, I think that the thought is there will be different sort of price
Yeah,
range
multiple versions
of
of it.
HoloLens
they
coming
come
that's
out.
soon.
that's Microsoft though. They always do that, right?
Yeah,
For,
right.
Yeah.
For Office, you have all
Yeah.
the different options.
Which I think will be good. Will be good because I think it will
Yeah.
open up the door for more experimentation within, especially within higher ed. So I'm looking forward for next year to see that price drop, but also looking for something that, people can afford.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you foresee a cardboard for HoloLens?
I don't know that you can go that.
That's a good question. Right?
It's a computer.
Yeah.
They treat it as a Windows computer.
Right.
Which is why, as we were talking by email, the Windows CEO, blanking on his name, just said that.
Nadella.
Yeah, he's saying that. No, Nadella was saying that. How do you put it? That augmented reality is the computing platform of the
Computing
future.
platform.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark
yeah.
Zuckerberg said the same thing. Basically.
Yeah,
They're both making on this. Yeah. I mean, we will see very inexpensive versions of HoloLens down the road. It's just going to take some time.
Mm-hmm. A traditional curve. Every year the technology is a little cheaper. It's
Right.
like driving a brand new car off the lot, right?
Yeah.
It cuts its value in half.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so you're seeing this from small schools, like it was a Cornish school
in Seattle. Yeah.
And I think the institutions that have medical schools obviously have tremendous interest in this. There were some, right? I mean, number of people that said to us, because we did a pre-conference survey, and they were saying, we have a medical program. We're interested in doing something.
We have a question about that specifically from Diane Convery. And Diane, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. She asks, do you see medical schools and higher stakes assessment?
Well, assessment in a sense that you can do a lot of, you can kind of set simulations within these environments. And as you set simulations, you can track a lot of performance indicators.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sort of sense, yes, I think that they will be looking at the variety of ways where this could go. Everything from, the simulations, surgical simulations, the simulations about, interaction with patients, so bedside manner. So
Right.
you can see this from very kind of very niche topics to really broad healthcare, medical education sort of curriculum.
One thing I think it's going to do, it's going to expand the whole range of what we can assess. I mean, we have some pretty sophisticated mannequins right now that are used in medical training. They're not cheap. And they can do quite a lot. They seem incredibly realistic if you get the high-end ones. But once you move into a virtual simulation, you can just open this up. As for example, pilots are trained in terms of flying. You can try any possible scenario because you go, all you have to do is design a scenario, you code it in, and then you do that. So you can, you have a much broader range of what you could assess.
That sounds like about an hour ago, we were talking with a gentleman from Columbia University. It's not too far.
Up the hill.
Who was describing some of the questions he saw automation in education.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was the possible ability of us to look into a person's eyes and see if they learned something by looking at biochemical traces, and how that would be easier to automate than do with a human analyst.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the possibility. I mean, this is a couple of steps down the road, but would that be a case where it'd be better to automate than to have human, because it'd be more efficient and obviously faster and more reliable? So I wonder about this, if this would be thinking of pilots, because increasingly we automate pilots' lives, functions. Some of us call them the glass cage when they're actually in the cockpit. They sit back and let a lot of those things happen. I mean, I wonder to what extent, where we'll be able to see more and more automation in medical fields, robotic surgeons, which sounds kind of crazy and disturbing, except it also sounds really doable.
Somebody just wrote it yesterday.
The pre-conference thing said something about the whole notion of what a medical person, the actual person does bedside, could be completely transformed, because you could have robotics doing a good deal of the stuff,
Yes.
and the person being there to just calm somebody down and say,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to let the
Walk you through.
we're going to walk you through what happens, but in actual fact, the robotic thing will actually do the
Take over.
whatever,
So
it's
that
give
would-
you a shot or something like
Right,
that.
right,
And
or
then,
draw your blood. So that would be another case of cyborg care. I mean,
So it would be,
because you have
like,
they're not fused, but they're joined together, and they have to be working.
Yeah.
Because then the human would have to be watching the robot to make sure it is performing according to task, and then watching the patient to see how they're responding.
Right.
And then doing that would be complex. So you have to train someone to do that. And again, train them in a simulation where we have high stakes, outcomes would be a really positive way of doing that. This is a theme that keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Automation education is really a strong one. But you're describing simulation,
Right.
and that's, I love the idea of expanding assessment.
Oh, I know, and I think you could. And there's so many other things that you could expand here. One of the things that fascinates us is some of the recent work in social VR. What's going on in that?
Social VR.
Social VR. Having multiple people in the same space. And for example, Jeremy Bailenson, Stanford Human Interaction Labs did just such amazing research over the years. And one of the things they've noticed is that people learn better when there's direct eye contact
Between the teacher and the student.
Teacher and a student. But of course, once you get into a large class, particularly once you get to the lecture hall, your eye contact goes. Maybe you get 1/60th of the time, 1/200th, 1/500th of the time. You basically, you might get a glance. That's the best you will ever get. And what if you could virtually do direct eye contact the whole way through? So it appeared that the teacher, professor was actually engaged just with you.
So you have a class of 1,000,
but
you
yet-
replicate the
but-
instructor.
Yes, but it gets
you're-
very personal.
But it gets
exactly.
very personal.
1,000 times.
Yes.
1,000 times over.
So the tricky thing is when he talks about eye contact, I have to look at him now,
Right.
right? Because otherwise it'll be too
right,
ironic.
so- right.
No, but that would be extraordinary. To do
Yeah.
that. And you could also, it might be a replication of the instructor, but it could also be a video of them, repeated.
Right.
No, that's quite a
That's
subtle
it.
idea.
And AltSpace VR is an incredibly innovative platform, which is working on this kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been doing that in education, but in performance and actually for one of the presidential debates. And they've actually been playing with that with their feature of front row, so that you go in and you feel like the performer is engaged just with you. But everybody feels that. Everybody's in a separate virtual room, or they're there with a whole crowd, and everyone feels that it's almost like a one-on-one situation.
This is how we describe a great performer. A great
That is,
speaker,
yes.
because I feel like they're speaking to me. Speaking of which, Roxanne has a question or a comment. Dr. Ned Sahin from Boston is a leading expert in autism and Google Glass AR.
Yes, we've had the pleasure to have a conversation with him. He was
Great.
He was in New York. I was an early adopter of Google Glass for education,
Right.
and he was there. We kind of co-presented an evening, and yes, it's incredibly interesting how this type of technology can mediate communications, especially people with autism can kind of be able to kind of give them cues, especially in social settings. Because they're so for them it's and it's very difficult to read faces or to read other things. So you can actually give them an emoji, say smile and other things, and so they can sort of give them a clue in terms of the social setting.
So you can imagine that where people suffer from prosopagnosia, face blindness. People can't recognize faces as much.
Right.
And to be able to have that, a little video, not a crayon, but a little tag saying, oh, this is Brian, or this is Emory. This could really change social interaction in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What other kind of feedback did you get from your presentation? Your crowded room full of people. Was most of it this is exciting, you guys? We want to do more of this. Were there any particular shapes that took as well? I mean, someone says, I want to do this in a French class, or I want to do this in biology.
Yes, there were definitely sort of people sort of raising their hands and saying, we want to now go a step further and bring it into the classroom. So there was a lot of questions actually in terms of support, in terms of how do you do that, what way to get there, especially because these units still are very expensive. So people are looking at how do you scale? And scale, it's not.
How do you scale? What do we know? Is it too early to know? Or?
It's if you're doing high-end devices, you're not going to have a whole lot of them because the investment is incredibly, it's a lot of money to do it for like Oculus or HTC Vive. The other issue here is that you probably have to have a support person around. You're not just going to hand this to a faculty and say, go use it in your class. You're also probably going to have a non-tech support person there, someone there to just be there if the person who is doing it needs assistance, because these these experiences get so realistic that you can end up tripping and falling. And I mean, we have when we've seen like for example at film festivals, Sundance like that, or Tribeca Film Festival, anyone using high-end VR, you have somebody standing right by the person just in case.
It doesn't need a driver.
Basically, doesn't need a driver in case you lose your balance or something like that. Yeah, so you need that. You don't need that as much with the lower end devices, with the mobile VR, but then you get into the other issues of, okay, are you going to be piggybacking off of students' phones? And if so, which phones are you using? Particularly now that Google has come out with their whole, separate platform requiring your own phone, or
you mean the Pixel?
Yeah, the Pixel. Yeah, I mean, Daydream View, which is on its way out, is just, I mean, I think it's an amazing device that's for mobile VR headset, but it only works with a Google Pixel phone. Pretty much kind of just cut Apple out of this,
So they have to do that.
But they have to.
And the Pixel's got great reviews so far.
Yeah, it's great reviews. Yeah. But for example, when I used VR in my class in the Media Society in the spring, the couch in New Rochelle, I could just say, everybody just bring your smartphones. Right. And I'll provide some plastic headsets. You use Google Cardboard, and we're all set. But now, as we start to, Google starts to go off in their own direction, it's going to be, what do you do with the people who have Apple phones and people that have, Daydream enabled phones, unless everybody coalesces around the Daydream standard. I don't know. That's
coalescing on the Daydream standard.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be battles of competing standards until.
Well, we have one more question, and this is good because I have one more question.
Okay. We knew you.
I mean, I have plenty.
We expect that.
And this is from Taylor Kendall, who says he would love to hear the reflections on Magic Leap and MR. Now, can we reflect on Magic Leap? And it's still under wraps, right?
Yeah. So they're very secretive. They continue to be, but I did meet the chief wizard.
Now, who's that?
Graham Devine. And so I met him, and we talked about it. They're working on it really hard. They basically, his talk was the world without atoms, or the world without atoms. Yes. Because it's the world of photons and light. And so they're really focused on basically making this device. There's been a couple of leaks out there. It appears to look like glasses. 2 days or 3 days later, they say, no, it's not going to look anything like that.
It's a headgear piece, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so he was very tight-lipped on exactly what it's going to look, but he said, we want the photons we present to be like magic.
Yeah, of course.
So,
magic. Is there a timeline yet?
No, but they. Yes.
However, Mike and I were talking about this after you had a much longer talk with him. That the fact that he and others are now out at conferences says something's going on. Because you're not, if you don't have something getting near the end of the pipeline, why would you be going out to conferences and unless you're starting to, you want to interact with your potential audience.
Yeah, so pushing a little further.
You're pushing it further enough that I wouldn't be surprised to, we might see something late 2017, something like that. I don't think early next year, but late 2017.
I wonder if they're aiming for Christmas 2017.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but that's a big season for purchasing.
Yeah, right. I mean, look at Sony's PlayStation VR, which I mean they're expecting.
Or look at the Samsung 7, which is designed to produce fireworks. Right?
Just don't fly with it.
I know. I heard I think it was LaGuardia. I heard stories that they actually had someone collecting them.
Yeah.
At the gate, like water bottles or shampoo bottles. At a much more prosaic level, Google Glass. We now have this thing from Snapchat. Excuse me, Snap.
Oh yeah,
Snap, but it's still Snapchat.
And what's the? Are these called specs that they're producing?
Spectacles.
Yeah, spectacles. Very British in a way.
True. Keep calm and keep your spectacles on. I mean, are they?
Keep calm in video.
Video, everybody. I mean, have you had a chance to play with these, or any thoughts yet?
Not a chance. It's coming out. It's a very low price range, like $125.
Wow.
So yes, and they look like designer glasses, sort of something, and that you would consider them in that way. No, looking forward to though to get our hands on it. It's not yet readily available.
I
Yeah.
think they will be wildly popular, at least among the younger set.
Because of the tie-in with Snapchat?
It's just I think they've kind of got it down as a look. It doesn't look like technology. It's an important point. Google Glass looks very
Right.
much like technology.
Right.
This just looks like a pair of sunglasses. You may like the design or not like it, but the fact that it's just a wearable device that you don't see is that you just tap the side of it to record, and that it automatically charges when you put it back in the case. I mean, it solved a lot of those wearable tech problems of, I have to deal with another piece of technology. You don't want that. You just want to be able to use it. And I think it's going to be very popular. I mean, given how popular Snapchat is right now.
And like Snapchat, it's restricted in use time, right? You can record short
10 seconds, but you can do up to 30 seconds. You can tap again, double tap or something like that.
So it's like Vine, basically.
Yeah,
So
very
but you
much
can get
so.
up to 30 seconds. Yeah, but that's it.
So that they're setting you up so you won't have the problem with Google Glass of all the batteries going again.
It will last for a day, approximately, with a single charge, which is pretty good. That's good enough.
Really
I mean, we expect right with our phones, we pretty much get by. We go.
We
It's
want a
not going to
day.
go. We're not going to get past a day, right?
I think it is so exciting talking to the two of you because I mean you give
It's
me a
great
sense
to be here.
well you're travelers from a distant land from 2017 really.
2025. No, we did 2025 yesterday.
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, if you're doing 2025 yesterday, what were you assuming? What would we be looking for in 9 years? What were you imagining besides the third Trump administration?
No way. But I think that what we're looking into is within the next 5 years, MR devices will be out in the
Mixed
market.
reality
The high-end
devices.
MR glasses, probably at a high-end sort of price range. Within 8 years, that price range will start getting down. Within 10, everybody will have access. But we definitely are going to be transitioning, meaning that a population will continue to have mobile phones the way we have them today. And as we go into the next 3 to 5 years, especially 5, there will be a population walking with MR enabled, AR MR enabled glasses devices.
Glasses, do you think will be the?
I think it will by then. I think it will be that. It was an interesting.
It will be a
debate.
combination. It probably will be still kind of working with something like a mobile phone or something light. I think that they will be paired for a while. Definitely, whether it's directly with a phone or something in your pocket. But I definitely think that especially to get them slim and nice looking. Now, things that will come up in the next 2 years, maybe still bulky. Maybe doing different things differently, but I expect them to get slimmer around 5 years.
But we gave them a scenario to work with. We said by 2025 there would be fully immersive VR, virtual reality, or mixed reality that was interactive, that you could interact with objects in the world
And people?
and people and have haptic feedback. And it was interesting because because we gave them that scenario, and some of the people in the conversation were, well, 2025 is a little too quick for that, and other people maybe not so. But then when you stop and think of the smartphone revolution and how far that we have come in years, and you go, here we are now in terms of all of this stuff of augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality. Where are we going to be 8 years from now? And it could be a world of difference. It's very hard to look at where we are now and even begin to imagine where we could be in 2025.
We're about 9 years after the iPhone.
Almost 90,
Yeah, so just almost that far ahead.
Just about that
Exactly.
far.
This is exactly how we placed that.
Yeah, and even when it came out, I don't think anybody imagined that everyone would be walking around with a smartphone, that we would be doing all our photography, all our texting, all our communication that way, that we don't really use it as a phone, we use it as an everything but
as
phone
a computer
device. It's a computer, really. It's just,
Well, what do you see as the role of AI in this?
I think it's
Well,
critical.
I think what's happening right now is that VR is doing the R&D for AR, and
for AI or
for AR.
Okay.
And then that will also get us to MR. So I think this is where we had it. We definitely are going to go into a device that will be able to switch in between VR, like virtual environments, to sort of mixed environments, so interacting with your physical world. But before we get there, and there is a language, but sort of we'll get AR, which will be more like just overlay of information, not necessarily as interactive as we would like it to be. In other words, there will be persistent information, but they won't be able to interact with the avatar. Maybe just being able to, or a digital object. You'll see it, you'll be able to hear it, but not sort of modify it in some way.
Okay, so it's more like most computer game content. I mean, you can't, if you're wandering around most games, you can see all these different objects, and you can interact with them on a very rudimentary basis. You can shoot that and there's a hole, or you could punch this and you say ow, but there's not much of a change. So I'm not thinking of, say, Minecraft, but in most games. But I wonder if we can see a transition towards something like Minecraft, if we can have an AI running to control so much of that immersive VR environment. So, you're in a haunted house, right? And you should be able to push a wall and knock it over, and it'll stay down. And you'll hear a sound of it, and then when you look at it from 3 dimensions, it'll look different, and that might change the plot. We are, speaking of plot, we are overtime. And the reason it's entirely your fault because you're both so fascinating. And we have a question.
Okay.
Please. And this is from Roxanne. Hello, Roxanne, who observes that second digital native Generation Zs will love the AR, VR, MR, and immersive educational experiences. Will seem normal.
Yes, it
See,
completely.
now that's the future. Thinking, of what is now strange becomes normal. And Barbara, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for contributing. We really appreciate it. Do you guys have a minute just to chill for a second?
Yes, we do.
Let me just say that for tomorrow, we're going to be here again. We have a whole stack of guests. We have a lot to discuss, a lot to cover. And in the meantime, if you'd like to ask us any questions, please use the hashtag FTTE, and we'll bring them in. In the meantime, we'll be checking out the conference, talking to people, and those of you who are here on site, please say hi. You know what we look like now. Those of you who are off-site, tweet at us. In the meantime, thank you so much to Christopher for doing so much behind the scenes of making this all work, and we'll see you tomorrow.